When we moved into our kitchen 22 years ago, I knew that I wanted to create a very warm, cozy, yet functional kitchen. I just didn't know how to go about doing that. Now, remember, these were the days before Pinterest, so my source for inspiration was my local library. I would visit my library several times a month, look at all the new home decor books, and really try to train my eye and to identify the style that I wanted to incorporate into my kitchen. Very quickly, I came to the conclusion that that style was the cottage style kitchen. So I started paying attention to the pictures that I was drawn to identify those key items that I would be able to thrift for my own kitchen. I quickly noticed that freestanding furniture pieces were very prominent in this style of kitchen. Items like hutches, plate racks, tables. So I set about thrifting these types of items for my own kitchen. This little shelf I thrifted for $5, and I was originally planning to use it as overflow in my pantry. And I also thrifted this wall shelf from Facebook Marketplace for $25. And you see behind peeking out a little server that my husband found for me at a yard sale years ago that I used to store my craft supplies. Another category that all the pictures that I was drawn to had in common was the presence of dishware, specifically white dishes, white ceramic dishes, and ironstone dishes, as well as transferware. And over the years, I've been able to thrift enough of these items to use in my own kitchen. With the exception of my transferware, all of my everyday dishes are white, and they're a mixture of just plain white ceramic dishes. I have some ironstone and also some porcelain. My goal was to only have items that were not only decorative, but they would also be functional. So these are things that I use every day when I'm cooking, when I'm serving. Now, there are some items in my kitchen that are strictly eye candy, but I really strive to have the majority of my kitchen decor be functional, which I think is one of the key elements of the cottage kitchen. It's not only pretty to look at, it's also highly functional. The wall shelf I thrifted is also the perfect place to display more of my dishes. And for this area of the kitchen, I like to change it seasonally, which makes it a lot of fun. And I like to include a mix of my white dishes as well as my transferware. In the summer, I do like to display my blue and white transferware. I think it's very appropriate for the season. And I also like to include some other items such as this wooden spool holder, some books, and that just helps to make a very nice vignette. Copper items are a must-have for a cottage kitchen, and over the years I have been able to thrift quite a little collection. Most of my copper items are the jello molds, which are great to put on a wall shelf or just on the wall. I also have a coffee canister and a copper teapot and coffee pot. So now I'm going to sprinkle these throughout my kitchen. I do think that these types of items look good repeated throughout the kitchen, not just in one place. Baskets are the most useful kitchen item and they are indispensable for a cottage kitchen. I have thrifted baskets of all sizes to use in my kitchen, and I specifically like the very rustic, chunky looking ones. I have these on top of my refrigerator that I use to store my paper products, so paper plates, paper cups. I also use these two baskets on that shelf to store my onions in one and my potatoes in another. And I like to keep this collection of smaller baskets hanging next to my kitchen sink, and these are perfect for serving bread during meal times, for taking to the garden to gather herbs or vegetables. And I have a larger basket that I use on my kitchen table, and in this basket I store our placemats. When you consider all of the hard surfaces in a kitchen, things like your countertops, your cabinets, your floor, it's really nice to soften the space with some fabric, some texture. And cottage kitchens are known to have beautiful curtains, a charming tablecloth, even runners in front of the sink. And I've tried to do the same thing in my own kitchen. While thrifting, I'm always looking for vintage tablecloths because I do like to change my tablecloth seasonally. I found this really beautiful one with these pink and white embroidered flowers that I like to use in the springtime. I also like to have something soft to stand on when I'm in front of the sink, and this floor mat I thrifted adds just the right amount of color to this area. And items like crocheted table runners and doilies add the perfect cottage touch to a kitchen. I've also made some very simple valances for over my kitchen sink that I like to change seasonally. And this is another way to add a softness to the kitchen that's also very cottage inspired at the same time. The last thing to consider when you're decorating your own cottage kitchen is to introduce some elements of whimsy and of nature. This is where your collections come in. I love to collect chickens, and over the years I've collected several of them. This is just part of my collection. I have this really cute nesting chicken in a basket that came with the eggs. I also have some salt and pepper shakers. And in addition to my chicken collection, which I tend to rotate so they all get a chance to be displayed at some point during the year, I also like to introduce artwork into the kitchen, which I know is not the usual place that you think of displaying artwork, but I really think it's very common to see that in a cottage kitchen. And by hot gluing some magnets to the back of my artwork, I can easily change these seasonally. And don't forget to add that touch of nature that includes displaying fresh flowers, pots of herbs on the windowsill. All of these items just give your kitchen that cozy, cottagey feeling. And these are easy to change out. They don't have to be expensive. You can just gather things from your own garden, and it really makes a big difference in the overall feeling of your kitchen. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. See you soon.